Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. How many times have we seen headlines like this? Only 1 in 5 workers nearing retirement is financially on track. I would argue that we've seen headlines like this that it's essentially become background noise or just presumed to be true. All of a sudden we see headlines and they stir up a little bit of panic and we think, oh my goodness, am I the 1 in 5 who's prepared, or am I in the 4 or the 5? I'm not prepared. Instead of feeling like we're taking action, we start to feel anxiety. And that's why I'm making a real effort on this channel to ground these conversations in reality. I want to show what people are actually doing to prepare for retirement and how retirees are actually doing once they get there. Because the truth is, most people are making wise choices and most people are making progress. Retirement doesn't have to seem like this looming dumpster fire that we're all terrified of. Rather, it can be something that you're excited about and something that you're steadily building towards. Now let's go back to that article. The big headline, only 1 in 5 workers nearing retirement is financially on track. This comes down to a single sentence buried inside, and that sentence is this. In fact, only 1 in 5 people who are 55 years old have $447,000 or more saved for retirement, or 8 times the average U.S. salary. Here's the problem. What does that tell us? Comparing my personal salary to a national average or my personal investments to a national average doesn't tell me anything about my retirement readiness. It doesn't capture my lifestyle, my expenses, my family. It doesn't tell me anything about my personal situation. So as a barometer, it's pretty weak. What they're really hinting at here is this idea of target multiples, how much you should aim to have saved by certain ages. The most common set of these benchmarks comes from Fidelity. 1 times your salary by 30, 3 times by 40, 6 times by 50, 8 times by 60, and 10 times by 67. So even if we use these aspirational targets, having 8 times your salary saved by the time you're 55 would put you ahead of the curve. But here's the other side to the story, a side that doesn't always get reported. Because while fear-inducing headlines have a way of grabbing attention, a lot of people are getting a lot better with their money. One stat you often see is that the U.S. personal savings rate hovers around 4.5% of disposable income. And that's true, but there's a catch. This only looks at money going into checking accounts or personal savings accounts. It doesn't consider investing. So once we consider money going into investment accounts, the picture gets a whole lot brighter. According to Fidelity, the combined 401k contribution rate, employees plus employers, now averages 14.1% of pay. Employers alone are putting in about 4.8% on average. And according to Vanguard, employers over there are putting in a similar 4.6%. And here's a powerful stat. In just the first quarter of 2025, 17.4% of Fidelity's retirement plan participants increased their contribution rates. That is real momentum, and when you combine the investing rate with the savings rate, all of a sudden things look a lot better. We're also seeing big shifts in when people claim Social Security. And this matters because Social Security essentially sets your income floor in retirement. It's inflation adjusted, it lasts for life, you can't outlive it, and the longer you wait, the higher that income floor gets. Now think of it this way. Back in 1998, if you walked into a room of 10 people turning 62, 6 of them would have signed up for Social Security on the spot. Today, fewer than 3 would. Instead, more of them are holding off for full retirement age or beyond. In fact, those waiting until their full retirement age jumped from just 9% in 1998 to about 23% today. On average, we're seeing households claim Social Security about 2 years later, and maybe 2 years doesn't sound like much, but spread across millions of retirees, and it's pretty meaningful. This represents a cultural shift to more educated choices. Now, not everyone can or should delay. It depends on your health, it depends on your finances, it depends on your family, it depends on your situation. But what really matters is that you look at what you would get at these different ages, maybe 62, 67, or even 70, and decide what is right for you. Another major shift we've seen is embracing Roth accounts. And that's really powerful because every dollar you withdraw in retirement is tax-free if it comes from a Roth account. So you don't have to siphon off a portion for Uncle Sam. So that means that your money stretches further and you have more flexibility with it. Also, it's not just that people are saving more, it's that they're also saving and investing smarter. In 2023, only 5% of 401k accounts had outstanding loans. That is a record low. That tells us that not only are people investing, but they're letting their money do what it does best and compound over time. They're resisting the urge to borrow against their future. We've also seen a surge in retirement millionaires. In 2024 alone, the number of 401k millionaires jumped 27%. Now, of course, some of that is due to market performance, but it also shows what happens if you stay consistent and you stay invested for the long haul. Now, I don't want to just focus on high income earners or aggressive savers. What's exciting is that across the board, we're seeing better saving behavior. We're seeing stronger investing habits and an overall improved retirement readiness. So let's dig into the data and see what's happening with low and modest income earners, because we are seeing improvements here too. Thanks to auto-enrollment and auto-escalation, a much wider range of workers are saving today than they were just a decade ago. Vanguard's How America Saves report shows that participation rates among the lowest income quartile jumped from about 62% in 2010 to over 80% by 2022 in plans with auto-enroll. That's huge. That means more modest earners than ever are in the game now. They're capturing employer matches, they're building up their balances, and this is something that just wasn't the case even a decade ago. On top of that, Secure 2.0 and state Auto-IRA programs like CalSavers, Oregon Saves, and Illinois Secure Choice are giving millions of lower wage workers access to retirement savings tools for the very first time. Think about somebody working in a local coffee shop or a small family-run business. For years, there was no retirement plan offered. This was me for the first decade of my career. I worked in dental, and the vast majority of these small professional corporations often don't have retirement plans. So you as the employee are left to figure it out on your own. And many people are unaware of how to open an IRA, or they simply don't do it because they were never taught to. And this isn't a small group we're talking about. Before these programs, it's estimated that about 57 million American workers had no access to an employer-sponsored retirement plan. That's almost half of the entire private sector workforce, and those most likely to be excluded, modest income earners and part-time workers. Now that picture is starting to change. With auto-IRAs, those same workers are getting enrolled, and a little bit of every single paycheck is getting put away into an investment account. It's not a lot at first, maybe it's 3%, maybe it's 5%, but it's consistent and it's automatic, and over time it can add up. Take California's CalSavers program as an example. It already has more than 700,000 participants with over $1 billion saved since launching. Oregon Saves has brought in another 100,000 savers. Today, the average CalSavers account only has about $1,500 in it. But for many of those workers, it's the very first retirement account they've ever had. So it's a start. And to put it into perspective, a 25-year-old saving just $50 per paycheck in one of those plans with modest investment growth could easily have over $200,000 by the age of 65. That's the power of consistency and compounding, starting from a very small base. So while these programs might simply sound like policy jargon on paper, what it means in daily life is that millions of modest income earners and part-time workers are finally getting in the retirement game. We've also seen new legislation to allow employers to add emergency savings sidecar accounts inside 401k plans. For more modest income earners, this means they can set aside a few $100s or even a few $1,000s should life throw an unexpected surprise their way, and that way they can access this money without having to fully raid their retirement account. Early pilot programs is showing that this is reducing hardship withdrawals, and it's keeping people invested for the long haul. And here's another point. Social Security is designed to be progressive. For lower earners, it replaces about 75 to 80% of pre-retirement income. For middle earners, it's closer to 40 or 50%, and for high earners, it drops down to 25 or 30%. So a smaller nest egg for more modest earners doesn't actually spell failure. They have a stronger income floor from Social Security. Now, it's true that the median 401k balance is still pretty modest, about $38,000 according to Vanguard's 2025 numbers. But here's the encouraging part. The rate of growth on accounts with smaller balances has actually been faster than those top account balances. Also, the average investing rate for those in their 60s increased to 21% last year. And many of these are modest income households that are putting away a few $1,000s, but it adds up and it is momentum. And when you zoom out, the story gets even better. Households earning under $50,000 saw their median net worth increase by about 45% since 2019. By comparison, households earning between $100,000 and $200,000 saw net worth increase about 37%. In other words, the fastest growth wasn't strictly at the top. Instead, it was among lower and middle income earners. And this growth is coming from two places: increased savings and paying down debt. So yes, millionaires may grab the headlines, but real improvement is happening at modest incomes too. Participation is up, access is broader, balances are growing, and for these households, Social Security plays an even stronger role. The middle is showing powerful signs of progress. Maybe it's worth putting it this way: investing is the tide that rises all boats. Whether you are a low, middle, or a higher income earner, if you're in the market, you participate in the same growth. Auto-enrollment, auto-escalation, all of these little nudges are getting more people invested. And once you're invested, that's when the tide can lift you. We've had very robust markets in recent history, and this is serving investors across all income levels. But the secret is you have to be invested. And here's a really important set of stats I want to highlight. According to the EBRI, about 78% of retirees say they're confident they have enough to live what they consider a comfortable life in retirement. Gallup reports that about 75% of retirees say the same thing. In fact, Gallup often shows this figure hovering around 80% year after year. What this tells us is that the vast majority of retirees feel like they're doing just fine. But you'll notice we hardly ever or never see a headline that says 80% of workers feel like they'll be comfortable in retirement. Because quite frankly, that title wouldn't get that many clicks. That's also why I won't title this video with that kind of title. Also, retirement's a little bit scary and unknown when you've never done it. All we've ever known is our working years. Stepping into retirement is kind of like stepping into the unknown. But I do think it helps to know the data on why retirees feel so comfortable. So let's go over that. One of the biggest reasons retirees feel comfortable is that their expenses naturally drop. Mortgages are paid off, transportation costs drop, hopefully those kids are grown and fully financially independent. Day-to-day spending just isn't what it used to be. Many retirees report that they spend less than they anticipated in retirement, and this can make your income feel more than adequate. Another major factor is reliability. Social Security provides a steady, inflation-adjusted check for life. You can't outlive it. And then layer in some people having a pension, maybe they have an annuity or regular withdrawals from an investment account, and all of a sudden, it feels like you have very dependable sources of income. Income that shows up without you having to do anything, and that can go a long way to creating a sense of security. Here's something Gallup often points out. Many retirees find their money actually stretches further than they feared it would. Why? Well, a lot of them were conservative during their working years, saving diligently and planning ahead. And then once they got to retirement, they found that they were a little bit over-prepared. That realization brings peace of mind. There's a relief in knowing that your lifestyle doesn't demand as much as you thought it might. Now, this one does vary widely, but for many retirees, healthcare ends up being less of a burden than they anticipated. Medicare kicks in at 65, and that can take a large burden off your shoulders. And a lot of retirees are surprised to find that their out-of-pocket costs aren't as much as they thought they might be. Now, of course, this is not true for everyone. This is not true for those who have ongoing chronic conditions. This may not be the case for those who end up needing long-term care or memory care at their end of life and may see their costs balloon when it comes to medical expenses. But still, many retirees do report that they're pleasantly surprised that their medical expenses are less than they had anticipated. And finally, mindset plays a huge role. Retirees often redefine what comfortable really means. Instead of chasing luxury living, many retirees prioritize family time, volunteering, or simply enjoying a slower pace of life. And when your priorities shift, so too does your definition of enough. For many retirees, that shift not only makes their retirement feel adequate, but also deeply satisfying. So when we see these surveys showing that 75 to 80% of retirees feel comfortable, it isn't an accident. It's a combination of lower expenses, reliable income streams, and sometimes even over-preparation, lower than expected healthcare burdens, and a redefined sense of what truly matters. So while you will continue to see headlines that scream about a crisis, there is a quieter reality that often doesn't get reported, and that is that many retirees, or most retirees, are quite comfortable, and today's workers are making a lot of progress, and progress isn't crisis. So what are your thoughts? Leave them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. My dog was walking by and I'm like, oh no, I think you'll hear him. Counts 401k. I've said it before. I swear I have. Okay. I put fake tanner on my arms, but not my legs because no one sees my legs, so it's a dramatic difference. I look like a marshmallow 99% of the time, except for when I film. When I have a fresh coat of fake tanner, a lot of people comment like, you look like you went on vacation. It's from a bottle. I'm not gonna subject my skin to those damaging rays. That's why I don't wrinkle, and I'm almost 40. On top, enunciate. I heard it. I didn't like it. We'll go again. Bees. Ha! Feels like Home Alone. I need to see that. I don't think I've seen it since I was a kid. In fact, galloped. Horse is galloped. I know it's not a phrase, but it's the word that came out of my mouth. I'm sorry.